So answer the Republican complaints.
Yeah.
I think they would argue that the additional spending is perhaps at the margins and isn't worth it given the deficit issue long term.
So I mean, I think you've got to separate the short term from the long term here, right? In the short term, we are in an economy that really is growing too slow. And the problems that we have and that we have to deal with immediately, which I do think are the high unemployment rates and the huge foreclosure of homes, the only way you're going to deal with those is to step up economic growth. So I'm a very strong believer in the short run, you need some of this extra spending. You know, and as I say, it's not that you want to do government spending forever to keep the economy going. The issue is what you hope is going to happen is you're going to start that virtuous cycle of growth whereby, this is the economist talking, right? You give a little more money to consumers through the tax cut. They buy a little bit more, that gives more stable demand to businesses. They hire more people, that creates more income, that creates more consumer spending, and basically it puts a shot in the arm that starts to, moves this up to a higher level. Okay, so in the short run, I truly believe you need this. In the long run, we do have to worry about government deficits, no question. The way you deal with government deficits are long-term fiscal discipline. This is not something that you do in 1 or 2 years. People say, let's cut $1 trillion out of the budget tomorrow. That'd just be disastrous in today's economy. What you want to do is cut the trillions of dollars out over a 10-year period. It's what we did in the 90s. Starting with the first George Bush administration and the Clinton administration, is they maintained fiscal discipline for almost a 10-year period. But equally important, there was relatively high rates of economic growth in that period. And I think fiscal discipline in a world where everyone is hurting and unemployment is 9%, is almost impossible relative to fiscal discipline over a 10-year period in a world with a stronger and more stable economy. So I guess I don't find any contradiction here between the idea that you need some short-term additional growth in the context of a long-term plan for deficit reduction.
The president pays for part of this through some tax increases. And again, the Republicans would argue that tax increases, to use John Boehner's term, are job killers. Why would you say that isn't the case?
Well, I think the president's been quite clear that you need a balanced approach here, that you need to work on both the revenue side and on the spending side, right? So taxes, obviously honest people can disagree about tax issues. What the president is suggesting in a number of cases is that we go back to the tax structure we had in the 1990s when we had enormously high rates of economic growth. It's clear that, an underlying tax structure is not, does not, certainly at the level that we're talking about it, is not something that's going to stop economic growth. I just think that's sort of a political argument that the data just don't support.
You don't buy the argument that the argument you often hear is that businesses are structured as LLCs, so they file as individuals, and therefore they'll be hit by higher taxes on the so-called wealthy.
There are some businesses for which that is true, but, the question is how you are, I have great belief in the ability of every business I know to understand this tax structure and to pick a business structure that gives them the best advantages in any given tax environment.